This program documents actual homicide investigations. Criminal charges are often dropped or reduced, and all suspects shown are presumed innocent unless proven guilty.
It was just a terrible tragedy for a good family.
She was screaming, "Auntie, I'm hurt, I'm hurt." It was just hard to see her laying down.
Sometimes you have people that just have a propensity towards violent behavior. If you were kind of raised in that gang culture, that's your first instinct.
He was taking matters into his own hand and wanted street justice.
She was a mother of 4 who loved her kids. She had dreams. Those dreams were dashed because of revenge.
He was a caregiver. He was working hard to send money back to Cuba for his mother and grandmother.
He was living his best life. You know, he had a relationship, a great job, you know, great friends.
The dispatcher hears someone screaming.
After that, 2 gunshots, and the line goes dead.
He says, "Hey, it's over between us. I found a new person." He blindsides him.
This is like a complete shock to his system. He's now enraged.
You've got unrequited lover who is angry because he's been fooled.
No, I need you to tell me, is this something that got out of control?
To plan the breaking and entering, to bind him, the knife, the hammer. This is overkill. Like, this is insane.
St. Petersburg, Florida. Around 10 a.m. on December 21st, 2011, Pinellas County 911 receives a harrowing phone call.
The dispatcher, on the other hand, basically hears someone screaming.
You could hear the sheer terror in the victim's voice. And the 911 operator was trying to get a location for where he was, but he was so terrified that he couldn't spit it out.
What is the address?
The dispatcher tried to identify who the person was on the other end of the call. What they can get from him is that his name was Landy.
Then the call takes another disturbing turn.
Here's what appears to sound like 2 gunshots. And at that point, the screaming stops.
The line goes dead. No one answered the phone on callback.
The dispatcher jumps into action.
They're able to use the cell towers to try to triangulate the area where the call was being made from. Because it's coming from a cell phone, it's not exact. It can give you an area within a couple of blocks, sometimes, or within a couple of 100 feet.
2 deputies, 2 separate units were dispatched to the location.
It's about quick thinking and getting people on the ground to try and find out what's going on and possibly locate or stop whatever is happening to Landy.
Landy Martinez Esquivel was born in Cuba on December 13th, 1990.
Landy Martinez moved here with his father to South Florida when he was about 4 years old.
His mom, his grandmother, and I guess other siblings were still in Cuba.
He came out when he was 18 to his family and friends. His father supported him. He decided to make a break and move to the St. Petersburg area. For the LGBTQ community, there was a real shift in around 2010 and both a couple of years before and afterwards, where St. Pete really became the epicenter for that community to live, thrive, open their own businesses, small businesses, restaurants, bars, that sort of thing.
Handsome and friendly, Landy found an instant community in St. Pete.
He was just this very fun-loving, outgoing person who loved people, loved his friends, just liked to have a good time.
He wanted to be, an openly gay man in a friendly community. He really genuinely loved people and loved being around people.
To support himself, Landy worked as a certified nursing assistant.
He started working in a skilled nursing facility where he took a real liking to the elderly people that had Alzheimer's.
He was working hard to send money back to Cuba for his mother and grandmother. He was a caregiver, he would help the residents take showers, get dressed, eat, helped with activities. If they were lonely, he'd sit by them and things like that. He actually really cared about all the residents, and they loved him to death.
At age 19, Landy began dating Jose Adame.
He did introduce me to him, told me they met over the internet, invited me over to the house. First impression, he seemed nice, sweet, genuine. They were a typical couple, cute, little kissies here and there, hugs, hold hands.
Once he found, his first real boyfriend online, he really devoted himself to that person. And that's, I think, he strived for in his early life, is that's what he wanted. He wanted to find love.
Eventually, the couple moved in together.
Landy's working at a nursing home, helping people at the end of their life. Jose's kind of a stay-at-home person.
Jose, he wasn't legal, so he couldn't really get a job right away. Odds and ends, like he was a Avon lady. You can go door to door, but he would give Landy or me books. We'd take him to work.
From Landy's perspective, he was living his best life. He had, a relationship with someone who he obviously cared a great deal for. He had a great job, great friends.
But on the morning of December 21st, 2011, 21-year-old Landy makes a desperate call to 911.
You hear him pleading for his life. After that, you hear 2 gunshots, and the line goes dead.
When he's calling into 911, they can kind of use the cell towers to try to narrow down the area in which they are, but they can't get an exact address. Once they get to the area, then the deputies have to start knocking on doors and find out if anybody heard or saw anything.
Then about an hour after the initial call, another 911 call is received from North Carolina.
The caller identifies herself as Yadira Guzman.
She calls in and says, my girlfriend and I are snow skiing in North Carolina. We have security cameras on our house. They're no longer working. They can see it from their smartphone.
So she immediately called 911 because why were the cameras not on? It was very odd that there was no feed coming from them.
Something else adds to her concern.
She had been trying to reach her roommate, Landy Martinez. He wasn't answering phone calls, wasn't responding to text messages.
Here's the address. I have a real concern. Can you please do a welfare check?
The deputies were dispatched out to the address.
They knock on the front door, but get no response.
As the deputies walked around the back of the house, they realized that there was a broken window to the back of the house and that the screen to that window was sitting on the ground beneath the window. There was also a door to the back of the house that was slightly ajar. And at that point, deputies realized that there could be something going on inside the house, requested backup, and eventually entered the house.
These are tricky situations when you have, an open door or a broken window. Is the suspect still inside?
The deputies began to walk down the hallway, just clearing rooms as they go down. They reach the bathroom about 2/3 of the way down the hallway. Notice that there's some blood on the floor in there. The water's running inside the sink. And as they continued to clear the house, they made it to a bedroom that was on the northeast corner of the house. And that's when they found the victim deceased in the home.
That they found a Hispanic male victim face down on the floor, blood. He was wearing a t-shirt and underwear, and they noticed that he was soaking wet.
A look at his driver's license photo confirms the victim is the original 911 caller, Landy Martinez.
He's clearly deceased, so they back out and they secure the residence.
When they go out to do a welfare check, the best for them is when they find the person and he or she is okay. In this instance, it came with the other one. There's a crime scene here, there's a homicide now, and we've got to go from trying to find if this person's okay to find out who did it.
A desperate 911 call. Pinellas County Sheriff's deputies discover the body of 21-year-old Landy Martinez inside a St. Petersburg home. Detectives arrive on the scene.
He is soaking wet. He's still wearing his underwear and a t-shirt. But there were knife wounds on Landy's hands and parts of his body.
The victim had what appeared to have been tape residue on his arms and on his legs.
He had a lot of wounds on him. He had a lot of bruising on the hands. He had the laceration on the forehead.
The wounds are mostly superficial until investigators identify the cause of death.
He had been shot on the left side of his head, right behind the left ear. He had also been shot once in the chest.
There were shell casings that were recovered near his body, which means that, he was shot at fairly, close range.
Investigators searched the house for more evidence.
The whole place was just like ransacked, as if there had been a fight or something.
It looks like it was potentially a burglary. You had electronics that were stacked up, near the door, duffel bags that were full of electronics. The TV was taken off the wall.
But a closer look points to something more sinister.
In the bathroom, it's kind of old style where it's a tub with a shower and it has the sliding glass doors. Those doors are off the track and angled. There's blood, visible blood, on the inside of the tub, on the outside of the tub.
The victim had to be in the bathroom at some point in time, and that there was some sort of a struggle that went on.
There was a knife on the counter of the sink. There was a hammer, a claw hammer on the sink counter. And there was a cotton glove, like gardening glove, inverted, kind of balled up like it was taken off. It was only one glove, not two. In the bathroom, we find duct tape. Pieces of duct tape. Upon further examination, you'll see hair stuck to the duct tape. And then when you examine the body, you'll see where his wrists are missing hair. And you'll also be able to see the width, which is consistent with the duct tape. And it's kind of a lighter color. And then the same thing we see on his ankles.
He was clearly bound with duct tape, probably placed in the shower at some point, was being, tortured.
An exhaustive search of the house turns up a potentially important piece of evidence.
Landy's cell phone was actually found in the bedroom just south of where he was. According to the investigator that located the cell phone, it was under the mattress in the bedroom in the southeast corner of the house.
Investigators locate the security cameras.
The cameras were all exterior cameras. Although you could look at the cameras real time, nothing was being recorded.
The live feeds had been disconnected when whomever it was that was inside the house disconnected the computer.
You've got a very serious crime scene, what appears to be a murder. And so now you got to shift into the mode of who did this and where are they?
Based on a clue from Landy's 911 call, detectives believe they might be looking for more than one suspect.
he said that they are trying to kill me. We believe at least, at a minimum, that there were at least 2 people involved. There could have been more, but we know that there's at least 2 people that were involved. Evidence-wise, there's nothing at the scene that points to a specific person.
So they started combing the neighborhood to see if there were any suspicious folks around, or if any of the neighbors saw anything, or there was any video from a home camera, a security camera.
The neighborhood canvassing detectives were able to come up with, there were 2 people at the time of this offense going door to door selling magazine subscriptions. Generic description, younger males, college age.
There were 2 guys on the day of the murder that were selling magazines door to door. And some of the neighbors said they were extremely aggressive and felt like, at least one said they wanted to come in the house, and she didn't want to let them in the house. They thought, they sound like good suspects.
There was a potential, could one of them have done this? Where are they? How far have they gotten?
Pinellas County homicide detectives are at a St. Petersburg, Florida home, where 21-year-old Landy Martinez was shot and possibly tortured.
What we found out was that a number of neighbors had solicitors that had been coming to their house that morning to sell magazines. So what we had to do was to try to determine, was it legitimate that there were solicitors in the area that morning, or could this have been potential suspects?
One of the neighbors had a business card, so we're able to assign a detective to that lead.
While a detective follows up on the solicitors, another investigator makes a phone call to Yadira Guzman, Landy's roommate who called 911.
She proceeds to tell them about the relationship that our victim had with his ex-boyfriend.
They'd been in a relationship for an extended period of time, on and off, a little over a year. They were in the house for about 5 months when they decided to split, end a relationship, and Jose was told to leave the residence. It wasn't amicable, the split.
Those cameras were put in after Jose had moved out of the house. And they were actually put in because of Jose.
She explains that the breakup had set off a series of back-and-forth retaliation attempts between the ex-lovers.
There were times immediately following the relationship in which Jose had taken a car that belonged to the victim and took it to North Carolina and was purposely running red lights so that the victim could get tickets in the mail.
He was trying to punish Landy, I think, thinking that they'd think it's Landy's car and he would get the tickets.
But according to Yadira, Landy wasn't going to let Jose get the best of him.
So to get the car back, Landy tells Jose, I want to get back together, meet me at this McDonald's, and we'll get back together, and bring me the car.
Landy calls the sheriff's office and requests the deputy to come out to stand by to keep the peace. So Jose parks the vehicle. Landy gets up, goes and meets the deputy and tells him, hey, that's my vehicle. That's my ex-boyfriend. I want his stuff out of it. I'm taking it back.
The deputies confirmed that the car is registered to our victim, takes the keys.
And Landy takes all of Jose's belongings and dumps them out, and then drives the car away and leaves Jose there by himself to fend for himself. This really angered Jose.
It was a victory for Landy as he just left them there in the parking lot, and drove home. He accomplished what he wanted to, and he took control back of the situation.
The call with Yadira puts Jose on their radar. She also gives investigators another name to look into.
Our victim had recently started dating someone else. That person His name was Jonathan. So with her providing information on how to get a hold of Jonathan, we have to now reach out to Jonathan to make sure that he's not a potential suspect.
Detectives reached Jonathan by phone at his home about an hour and a half from St. Petersburg. He details a phone call he had with Landy the night before.
Landy was repeatedly trying to assure him that everything with Jose had been completely broken off, that he was done with that relationship. He's talking with Landy, and Landy says, I want to call Jose while you're on the phone with me, and I just want you to listen in on the conversation and be assured that the relationship is over with.
It's a three-way call. You be quiet, and I will go through with Jose telling him that this is over, and you can hear it in first person. The night of this murder, around midnight, there's a phone call. He says, hey, it's over between us. Found a new person. I have a new love interest. I'm really attached to this guy. I'm very happy. And Jose says, well, I'm glad for you. Landy then tells Jose, and by the way, Jonathan's on the phone. So he blindsides him on this call.
This is like a complete shock to his system, and he's now enraged because Landy got the best of him.
Jonathan tells detectives that the call ended and he went to work.
After getting off from work, he just decided to text Landy just to make sure everything was okay, let him know that he was off work. And he received a response back from Landy that just said something to the effect of okay.
The responses he was getting from Landy were not making sense. They were very short, they were very curt.
Then Jonathan says he got blindsided.
And then he starts to get text messages back from Landy's phone saying, hey, I want to get back with Jose. Jose is the love of my life. Now this is 6 hours after the three-way call where Landy is professing his love for Jonathan and telling Jose in person he doesn't love him anymore.
And that was completely a 360 from what just happened hours earlier.
The morning after the call with Jonathan, detectives attend the autopsy.
The autopsy confirmed what we were able to see at the crime scene, that the victim had been shot twice. The shot to the head was fatal.
It also backs up another theory.
He did suffer a laceration to the forehead near between the eyes. That's consistent with being struck by the hammer. And that hammer's being in the bathroom, duct tape in the bathroom.
The autopsy confirmed that he was really tortured before he was shot and killed.
But who would commit such a heinous act? Investigators confirm that it wasn't Jonathan.
His alibi, of course, is that he was at work. It was a warehouse job. They had videos, they have a time clock, then he had coworkers.
That leaves one name on their list.
You start getting a lot of information that's pointing towards a certain person, Jose Adame.
Detectives in Pinellas County, Florida, believe that 21-year-old Landy Martinez was tortured before he was shot twice at close range. Landy's ex-boyfriend, Jose Adame, is the top suspect. But all investigators have for now is a hunch.
We haven't been able to develop any of the evidence. We don't have anything that's tying Jose to the crime scene.
They decide to go back and re-listen to the 911 call and clean up some of the audio and see if they can glean any other information about who the possible suspect was.
So what we do next is we're going to transcribe the 911 call. And we're going to document each word and each sound that we hear in that call.
They were able to hear Landy saying something to the effect of, "Stay away, Jose." That then immediately put Jose at the crime scene and involved as the perpetrator.
Was he the only one?
Whether or not there was someone else involved, that still was something they needed to figure out.
Detectives revisit the two men that neighbors reported were selling magazines just before the murder.
The company was out of California, and they hire local college kids. They drop them off in a neighborhood, have them go door to door to sell magazine subscriptions. We were able to locate them and determine what they were doing in the neighborhood and eliminate them as potential suspects.
There was nothing connecting them to the house that Landy was in. Ultimately, they were able to be excluded as suspects by the detectives.
Investigators focus on finding Jose Adame. But with no permanent address since moving out of the house with Landy, this isn't easy.
Where Jose went, it was largely a mystery.
They looked to Landy's friends for help.
We were able to identify a witness, Gail Rigg. She's a dear friend of Landy. They worked together, they were co-workers.
I met with Officer Judy. Pretty much everybody with everything that had gone on the past couple days kind of suspected Jose did it. It's like, I have a gut feeling he did it.
Gail says she has been exchanging messages with Jose in the days since Landy's death. She shows them to detectives.
She tells him, asked, have you heard about Landy? She said, yes, that he has a new boyfriend and he's moving on. She says, no, Landy was murdered last night. He said, oh, that can't be true. I just talked to him, last night.
Jose said he must have missed the news because he has been out of state.
He says, I've been here. I left Florida several days ago.
Investigators want to talk to Jose, but are cautious about hitting the road.
Rather than going up there trying to follow up on this investigation and talking to him realizing that he's a suspect in the case and now he's disappeared and we can't find him anymore, the best thing for us to do is to try to see is there another case that we can use to get him in custody.
Detectives get creative, locating an old police report from nearby High Point.
We located a report where Jose Adame was found inside a woman's duplex in High Point. He got caught in the house. He was burglarizing it. She did not want to prosecute. We made recontact with her, and she said she did want to prosecute. So we were able to obtain an arrest warrant for burglary on an unrelated case so that we could use the U.S. Marshal Service to locate and take Jose into custody. They have a unit for tracking down fugitives, and they agreed to accept this case, and they were able to locate a possible location for Jose, which was in Hickory, North Carolina.
6 days after Landy's death, Florida detectives traveled to North Carolina.
We made contact with him inside Catawba County Jail. He's read his rights, and he agrees to give us a statement. He told us that he was in Hickory, North Carolina on the dates of the offense. You thought that you got back to North Carolina December 17th, around 10 p.m., is that correct?
Yes, it was a Saturday night.
He talked briefly about being on a phone call with Jonathan, but denied that he was ever in the area at the time that this all occurred. He really tried to portray the breakup, that is, as more of a mutual breakup, that they decided to part ways and that everything was good. They just decided to be good friends. But confronting him with the information that that was not the case, obviously he denied that and wanted to leave it as though everything was fine.
Okay, so it wasn't we weren't angry.
No.
Everybody got along?
Detectives play the 911 call for Jose.
Jose, it's time to tell the truth. Do you want to hear something? I want you to listen to my partner here. He's going to be playing something off of a computer for you, okay?
No, please, no.
That was Landy. Did you hear Landy screaming for his life? Now's the time to tell the truth. Let's get this behind you.
No, I need you to tell me. Is this something that got out of control? something that was going to be innocent, maybe even something that was going to fix things. But it got out of control. It's time, Jose.
What happened, Jose? It's time. Do you want to hear the call again? Is that a yes or no?
But no matter how hard they press, Jose refuses to budge.
He denied any knowledge in the homicide. He denied being in Pinellas County. We don't have enough to charge him with homicide at this time.
One month after Landy Martinez was tortured and killed, his ex-boyfriend, Jose Adame, is being held in a North Carolina jail on unrelated charges.
Although he did not confess to the actual murder, we knew that while we were waiting on our evidence to be developed, that he wasn't going to get away from us.
Investigators need evidence that proves Jose was involved. After weeks of trying, they are finally able to access the contents of Landy's password-protected cell phone.
When we got in the phone, I mean, we're searching the phone. We're going to search the entire phone. It's basically a computer. Well, this one had a video on it, and it was dated the day of the homicide.
We were able to identify some video that was on there that was taken of the victim while he was inside the bathroom.
When you play the video, you actually see Landy bound. He's duct taped. You don't see his ankles, but you do see his wrists. He's duct taped. He's in the same shirt, the same underwear in the video. He's in the bathtub with the shower running on his back. He's crying, and you see his hands, so you know he doesn't have the iPhone. Someone is videotaping him. The person doesn't talk on the videotape, but Landy is crying and he's speaking in Spanish. And basically what he's saying is, I'm a horrible person, I'm terrible, Jose is great, he is the love of my life, nothing is Jose's fault. You know, these kind of statements, which make absolutely no sense for Landy to be making freely and voluntarily.
He's basically telling whomever it was holding the camera and recording this, saying something to the effect of that Jose had nothing to do with this. And right away that tells us that more than likely Jose had something to do with this.
Investigators head back to Hickory. But this time, Jose isn't the only person they want to talk to.
When they get to North Carolina, we identified a mother, identified a sister, and talked to them about, okay, when did he leave? How did he leave? When did he come back? Did anyone go with him when he left? You know, just trying to get as much information as we possibly could.
We go to the residence, and there's a woman walking down the street towards us, towards the house. And we say, hey, are you going to that mobile home? And she says, yeah, that's where my family is. And we say, oh, hey, listen, we're up here about Jose.
The woman identifies herself as Jose's niece. She reveals she was the one who rescued her uncle after Landy left him stranded at a Florida McDonald's.
She says, well, 2 days ago, I took a day off work and drove all the way down to Florida. Yeah. And I picked my uncle up at this house. And then I drove him all the way back home. She says, and he borrowed my mom's car and drove back to Florida. That puts him in Florida on the day of the murder. We ask, where's this vehicle at right now? And she points across the mobile home park. She says, that's my mom's car right there. Now we have the vehicle that was used to transport. There's potential for evidence to be inside that vehicle.
Detectives obtain a search warrant.
They took that car back to the local sheriff's office up there. We had our own forensic specialist there to process the car for us.
The forensic tech finds blood on the steering wheel. We also found the other side of that cotton glove in between the seat and the center console down in there.
The evidence from the vehicle is submitted for testing.
DNA takes a while for it to come back, even to this day. So DNA evidence is exciting, but it isn't now. It isn't instant. I hope we have DNA.
As detectives continue to build the case, the cell phone records come in.
Around the time of the homicides, we can actually place his phone within a 2-mile area of the crime scene.
We were able to put Landy's cell phone at the same tower that Jose's on. He said, I'm in Hickory. Well, we know he's in Florida, and they're hitting off the same tower.
And then shortly after that 911 call is made, we can track his phone now leaving that area, going eastbound on Gandy Boulevard towards Tampa and leaving the area.
And now you've established probable cause for his arrest. At least now we can formally charge him.
On February 17th, 2012, Jose Adame is charged with first-degree murder.
He wasn't going to go any further to incriminate himself. He decides to not talk anymore, and he wants a lawyer.
Over 4 years after the brutal torture and murder of Landy Martinez, his ex-boyfriend, Jose Adame, goes on trial in Pinellas County, Florida. The prosecution plays the harrowing 911 call and the video of Landy being tortured for the jury.
I've been a reporter for more than 50 years. I cannot think of a similar crime where detectives have the audio of the crime and the video of the crime. When there is an in-home murder and they've got audio and video on the cell phone and the torturing, that's incredible. I mean, that thing only happens in the movies and TV and never happens in real life, except it did here.
To plan the breaking and entering, to bind him, the knife, the hammer, this is overkill. To put him in the shower and run water on him while you're videotaping him, like, this is insane.
The state presents new evidence in the form of DNA.
The glove left inside the scene, which had Jose Adame's DNA on it, it also had Landy's DNA on it. The glove in North Carolina had Jose's DNA as well as Landy's DNA. The blood on the steering wheel belonged to Landy.
Prosecutors argue that Jose acted out of a twisted drive for vengeance that took root the day Landy left him behind in a McDonald's parking lot.
You've got the torture from an unrequited lover who is angry because he's been fooled a couple of times by Landy. It is from the McDonald's incident to the phone call.
He wasn't going to walk away. That was his motive. He wanted to take back control in one final movement, if you will, in this relationship between him and Landy. He was going to have the last word no matter what, and that included shooting and killing Landy Martinez.
But the defense claims someone else entirely is responsible.
He said, but I had nothing to do with it, and said, he's the one that shot him, he's the one that did it, it wasn't me.
The jury doesn't buy the defense's version of events. On July 15, 2016, a verdict is returned.
Jose was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no parole.
Jose just, in my opinion, got off easy, basically. You're gonna spend the rest of your life locked away while, an awesomely amazing person is no longer with us.
For investigators, the verdict is a victory. But Landy's final words leave a loose end they can't tie.
It's clear in the original call. They're going to kill me. They are, the contraction, they're going to kill me. There's two perpetrators here. This case, it's not completely solved. The case is, still being worked on by cold case detectives at the sheriff's office. I do hope that we were able to get the second person and have a successful conclusion.
But Jose's conviction does give Landy's loved ones some room to heal.
I was glad that, the family and his friends would have closure, at least knowing that the person that they knew wanted to harm Landy had been convicted.
You try to see the good in everybody.
As part of the San Francisco Bay Area, Alameda County plays host to the cities of Berkeley and Oakland.
Alameda is south of San Francisco, and it's more out in the country as opposed to San Francisco being a large urban center.
It's sort of like a suburb. Alameda County is more subdued.
But on July 13th, 2016, just after 1 p.m., the serene surroundings of Alameda County were suddenly disturbed.
It was a warm summer day. Meekland and Blossom is a really heavily traveled intersection in the middle of unincorporated Hayward.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, people started hearing gunfire. So 911 calls started coming in. Callers are reporting that someone walked up to a truck, fired several shots, and then walked away.
This was in the jurisdiction of the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, so they were the first to get out there. They stopped traffic, they blocked off the intersection.
Responding officers find a red truck parked in the intersection, with the windows down and the engine still running. There is a man in the driver's seat.
He was shot multiple times from the right-hand side. The shooter had shot through the open rear passenger window, and I believe he was shot 3 or 4 times in the side of his chest.
They assess quickly that the man is deceased.
There were plenty of witnesses on the scene who stuck around. A couple of them saw, somebody get out of a car, go up and shoot. We knew that it was an intentional act.
The man's ID is found in his wallet on his person, and he's identified as 38-year-old Adon Katani.
Adon Katami was born on April 13, 1978. He was raised alongside his 3 siblings in San Francisco.
His dad was Jordanian, his mom was Nicaraguan, and his mom's like super tall. I think his dad was short. His grandma was like the matriarch of his life and his family. Like, he respected her so much, and she was very classy, very put together woman. He would always, straighten up and make sure his shirt was buttoned, and whenever it came to his grandmother and stuff like that. So he was definitely raised with like a lot of like morals and respect.
When Adon was a teenager, his father passed away.
I think that shifted his energy to wanting to protect and wanting to like care for his family. And I think that was like a strong drive for him throughout his life.
Adon grew up fast after that. He became a father himself in his early 20s. He didn't stay in that relationship, but they remained friendly and decided to co-parent together.
I met him actually for the first time when I was probably 16 or 17. And then years and years went by, and I kind of lived my life and was in my 20s and saw him again. He's so handsome. I just remember all the girls just all over him. So he's charismatic, to say the least.
Monica and Adon eventually started dating.
He had a 10-year-old son. I had 3 kids at the time. Then he had his son. And so the thing that we love to do the most is do stuff together with the kids.
Adon worked hard at being a parent and a good partner in more ways than one.
When it came to Adon and his work ethic and his work environment, like he had like a realty company and he would do selling houses and stuff like that. When I had met him, he wasn't doing the house selling anymore. He was working for the Yellow Pages. He would sell like, advertising for the Yellow Pages. But he just like was so dedicated to it. And he would put his little suit and tie on and just go running around having these meetings.
A few years into the relationship, Adon and Monica got a surprise.
We had that off and on dynamic going on. And around the time that our daughter was conceived, like, it was probably a little bit more of like an off time. And then I became pregnant, and then it was just kind of like, he was scared about it at first. When we did the ultrasound, they said that it was a girl, and that was his joy, was having a girl. So that made him very happy.
After years of an on-again, off-again relationship, co-parenting helped Monica and Adon find their stride.
So we struggled a lot in our relationship to actually get it right, like put it all together. And we were finally, like 7 years later, we were finally kind of getting it right.
With his family life humming along, Adon looked to make a change in his professional life.
He would always talk about how he wanted his own business so that he can feel laxed in the sense of knowing that he could provide for his son and his daughter. That was his drive. That's when he wanted to open up a cannabis club.
Around this time, cannabis has just become eligible to become legalized, pending an election later on that year in November.
In 2016, the cannabis industry was in its infant phase, as I call it. It was a newborn. It was an idea of what you wanted to do, but no real understanding of how to get there.
When he was working in real estate, he had money saved and put away, large amount, so that he can save for his business. He always knew that one day he would have a business. So that was his put away money that he saved for this. And so when the time came and he thought he was going to be able to open this business, he literally took everything that he had.
So there's over a dozen cannabis licenses. And so depending on how big your ambitions are and how deep your pockets are is kind of which one you go for. And so Adon obviously had the means to go forward with that. In order to start up a cannabis business, it's a very odd process, especially in California, to where the first thing you do is you go to your local regulators. So that would be your city municipalities, your counties, depending on where you are. And you fill in an application if there are application spaces available. And it's hyper competitive.
You have to do great outreach. You need to know your community. You need to know the people. You need to know the rules. Any business that is serious business, you have to let the community know that you're going to be there, especially owners.
Adon's efforts were moving slowly but surely in the right direction.
He had secured the property. He had secured the lease. He had some of the connections for, the building and getting the lease and some of the seed money.
His next step was to secure this coveted permit.
Before Adon can get his business up and running, he is savagely gunned down in broad daylight at a busy intersection.
Adon didn't suffer. He was shot multiple times and died very quickly. There was no shortage of eyewitnesses as to what happened. It was very clearly someone running up to a car intentionally and shooting through the rear passenger window at somebody. Is this a road rage? Do they know each other? Why are you out here? What's going on?
There are a ton of witnesses, and everyone describes the same thing.
We knew the shooter had run out from the intersection and had gone into a neighborhood. It's a very large neighborhood. It's got streets that wind all kinds of different ways. It's not your standard, A Street, B Street, First Street, Second Street. It's a complicated neighborhood. So they needed to spread out the perimeter in there because, it's hard to cover all those streets driving around because you can't just drive down one and see, the whole block. So the perimeter that was set was pretty massive.
Several of these officers work this area regularly. They're aware of the fact that there are quite a few cameras in the area.
The sheriff's office had a permanent camera on Hank's Liquors, and within a couple of minutes, the deputies had a picture of the person who had done the shooting. The red Jeep pulls up, a man gets out wearing a white long-sleeve colored shirt, jeans, a Dallas Cowboys hat, and some white shoes.
He's also wearing rubber gloves.
You see him very quickly, intentionally get out of the Jeep with a purpose. He goes right up to the truck, he shoots, and then he runs away down the side of the liquor store towards the tracks. So you could see exactly what he was wearing. The description that went out from him was absolutely perfect. And the footage of the shooter fleeing the scene was able to be captured and distributed within, I think, 10 or 15 minutes of the actual shooting. His pictures being sent out to every cell phone of every sheriff's deputy that was called to the scene and looking for him.
Helicopters, K-9 units, and patrol cars with the Alameda County Sheriff's Department launch a manhunt.
The shooter runs right up and intentionally does this very quickly. You wonder why it happened. Was this a road rage incident? Had they got into it? Did they know each other? Did somebody cut each other off? That was completely unknown.
It isn't long before a potential suspect is spotted.
The image of the shooter fleeing the scene was sent out to all the sheriff's deputies in the area via, I believe it was an email, and they had the photo on their phones. And so as they're canvassing the neighborhood looking for it, they see someone sort of matching the description, clothing slightly different, no long sleeve shirt, and like walking down the road looking a little sweaty. He was strolling down the street, trying to look like he was out for a leisurely jog. In a situation where you think it may be dangerous, you don't want to let that person know what you know. So they engaged him in a way, hey man, what's up? How you doing? What are you doing out here? And then the person's answers started to not make sense. The shooter was pat searched and made sure he didn't have a firearm on him, but as it was not certain he was the actual person yet, they pull some rubber gloves out of the back of his pocket. And I'm like, what are those doing there? Because the shooter appeared to have been wearing gloves as well during the shooting.
They place the man in the back of a patrol car.
As the shooter's sitting in the back of the patrol vehicle, he's actually trying to make a phone call to somebody, and the deputies saw that and took his phone away from him.
He tells them that his name is Johnny Wright and he is from Memphis.
He was forthcoming about his name. He told them who he was, told them where he was from, and then he was brought back to the station to be interviewed.
Johnny doesn't admit or deny involvement in the shooting. But what he does say gets their attention.
He agreed to speak with the police and the detectives on the case, and then very coldly said, I don't want to talk anymore. Can you get a DA in here so I can sign up for the death penalty? Which is a very odd thing for a suspect to say in an interview, basically asking to plead guilty and get, what would have been beyond the maximum punishment in the case before ever having gone to court. He appeared to not have any remorse or regret. He didn't appear overly emotional. He didn't appear angry. He appeared that he'd taken accountability for what he did. He knew he was caught, and he knew he was, going to go to prison for a long time.
Johnny is arrested and charged with murder.
Detectives know that they have the shooter, but there's still a lot of questions. Why is he in California? Why did he shoot a dime? And who was driving the getaway car?
Near the crime scene, the search continues for the red Jeep.
Two detectives were able to see the red Jeep pulled into a parking space and a young lady standing right outside of it.
She's standing there smoking a cigarette with her phone out.
When the police approached the driver in the red Jeep, she was a little guarded, a little not uncooperative, but not really forthcoming. She was giving very limited answers. Who have you been with today? Oh, my boyfriend. Where are you from? I'm not from here.
She identifies herself as Chariot Burks from Memphis, Tennessee.
Her not being from the area and also being from Tennessee became pretty suspicious, and at that point it was pretty obvious that two people were connected, that this was the red Jeep that he got out of and that they were both happened to be from the same state.
Chariot Burks agrees to come to the station for questioning.
She admits that she is in a relationship with Johnny Wright. He is her boyfriend, and Johnny had asked her to join him on this last-minute trip from Memphis to California.
She stated that Johnny told her that they were coming to visit one of his relatives, and she didn't know anything about the shooting.
She admitted to being the driver in the car. She gave varying accounts of, what she knew, what the reason was that he got out of the car, whether she knew he had a gun or not. At first she was saying, I didn't know he had a gun, but then I might have heard it rack. I don't know what it was, why he got out of the car.
She said he just told her to drop him off at the intersection. She didn't see any shooting, but she did hear shots.
She said she has no idea who Adon Katani is.
Nonetheless, detectives are confident that both Chariot Burks and Johnny are responsible for the shooting.
She was interviewed and Mr. Wright was interviewed, and the case was then presented to the DA's office for charging, and they were both charged with the murder of Adon Katani.
But as far as why, all they have is a theory.
These two people drove halfway across the country, and Johnny zeroed in on this one red truck and shot and killed Adon Katani. It looks like he knew exactly what he was doing and exactly who he was targeting. This could be a murder for hire.
Posh Green Cannabis Boutique. Posh Green is the first solely owned Black woman cannabis dispensary. It's really hard, so I thought I could draw my own architect plans. Yeah, right. So no, you have to get a licensed architect. I had to go through planning. I had to do outreach, where we had to do over 300 people, different languages, have meetings. You have to hold outreach where people can come and voice their opinion. You cannot open a real business without doing outreach, and it's great to know the people around you, because they're going to support your business or they're not going to support your business if they've been there before you. You just need to know your neighborhood. I was able to secure, a license. It was like amazing. I was like, what? This is really happening, right? It was like booming. It was great. But I was fortunate enough to be able to deal with some big players and get in the beginning and learn the business.
Within hours of the shooting death of Adon Katani, California investigators have made 2 arrests. The alleged shooter, Johnny Wright, and his girlfriend turned getaway driver, Chariot Burks.
These two traveled from Memphis, and it appears that Johnny came solely to kill Adon.
So investigators pretty early on suspected that he had been hired to carry this out.
If this theory is true, investigators must now answer the next question. Who hired Johnny to kill Adon?
90% of homicides happen between people that have some connection to one another. So the logical thing to do is to look for people that they may have had some conflict with, whether it's an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend or anybody in their life like that. So the detectives are going to go around and interview those people and see, where they were, what they knew about it.
Investigators speak with Adon's family members, including the mother of his daughter, Monica Palau. She reveals a harrowing detail.
Adon was actually on his way to daycare to pick up his daughter when he was shot.
A friend called her and said that some other friends saw Adon's truck surrounded by cop cars. Something bad had happened, and she didn't know if her daughter was with him or not.
He was supposed to pick up our daughter. So my little sister said, I'll drive you to the daycare. And then when I went to the daycare, she was still there.
Relieved but still frightened, Monica went to Adon's house where friends and family had gathered, waiting for news.
Everybody in his family, his ex-girlfriend, were genuinely and completely surprised by this. He didn't really have those type of enemies in any way. He didn't have really acrimonious relationships with the mothers of his children. He was doing well for himself, and it wasn't obvious who his natural enemies would have been, if any. He was a go-getter, you know, and getting to know him through his family a little bit. He had a daughter. He was a guy who was involved in a lot of different things. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a bad person. He was a kind of an entrepreneur.
Detectives learned Adon was trying to better his life and the lives of his kids via a new business venture.
His family said, well, you know, you ought to talk to his business partner. And the police were, business partner, who's that? Her name's Takesha Upshaw. He met Takesha, and she became a friend, and they talked about their passion for medical cannabis.
No other small business startup requires this level of scrutiny. So trying to juggle all of this is more than usually one person can handle. And I think that's where Adon ran into. I think that he ran into a situation where he just realized it was so much. And that's where Takesha came in. You gotta shake hands, you gotta smile, you have to be definable. And she was good at that.
The community can be your greatest cheerleader, or they can be your worst fear.
She had a face, she dressed the part, she really went for it. And people loved that.
Adon's job was behind the scenes, where he provided a much-needed cash flow.
It cost quite a bit of money to get in. Minimum $250,000. You're talking about leases, insurance, licensing fees that can be a lot on their own, especially local licensing.
His back of the business was him funding, like, everything to get it going, everything to get it off the ground running. Any type of fundraiser stuff or anything that they needed. That was his position. Her position was the light, the spotlight, the front and center.
So they were able to come together. She had what he was missing, he had what she was missing. It sounded like a great partnership.
He had secured the property, he had secured the lease, he had some of the connections for, you know, the building and getting the lease and some of the seed money, and she was kind of the public face of it.
But Adon's family reports that after several months of momentum, the partnership started to sour.
He was approaching me and he was just like, I feel like she's kind of being distant. She's not really responding to my calls and stuff like that.
They had an important date coming up where they would learn if they got the permit from the Planning Commission, and he was panicking.
He got very concerned, and he went to his uncle, I believe, and who'd worked with him in real estate, and they were looking at other options, and that's where they came up with this buyout offer.
They thought they were going to get a permit. They had people in the city telling them, we're going to help you get this permit. They thought that they were going to be able to open a highly lucrative and highly successful cannabis business in California. Those are businesses that make a lot of money if you can get a permit to operate one. As the date neared for the Planning Commission meeting, both thought that they were going to have a successful, valuable business. And at the time when their business relationship started to dissolve, Adon demanded to be bought out for over $1 million. You need to buy me out if you're going to do this on your own.
His request was met with silence.
Then she starts really ghosting, like ghosting. And at that point, he was just very frustrated because he couldn't get a hold of her. She wouldn't answer his phone calls, and he had funded like everything.
As investigators ramp up the interviews, the next order of business is clear.
All of this new information about Takesha Upshaw is really concerning. They immediately start doing some digging on her, like, who is this woman?
They learned that Takesha worked hard to curate her image in the Bay Area.
If you looked at her Instagram profile, you'd see a world traveler, somebody who was into, you know, yoga and things and was involved in the community, you know, was out there trying to push I'm going to be the first African-American female-owned black, dispensary in San Francisco, was very connected, volunteered her time with the NAACP, was connected to a lot of the who's who of San Francisco at the time.
The importance of being able to, I guess, grease palms, network effectively, whatever you may want to call it, she was very good at it. Ms. Upshaw was phenomenal at networking.
Then, investigators learn a small detail about Takesha that has big implications.
Takesha's father's family is from Tennessee. She has strong family connections to Memphis, which is where Johnny Wright traveled from.
It was not a coincidence. The shooter and the driver were from Tennessee, and that Miss Upshaw had all those connections to family.
As the man who allegedly gunned him down.
The theory is somebody hired Johnny Wright to shoot Adon. Then they learn Takesha Upshaw is from Memphis, just like Johnny. It seems like more than a coincidence with all the money and reputation that was on the line. With Adon backing out of the business, was Johnny bought as a hitman?
Johnny is behind bars and he's not saying anything. However, they have his cell phone.
We get a search warrant. We download the contents of his phone.
It's a burner phone, so it's not a lot of information on there, but what is on there is really suspicious.
The text message exchange was uncovered. Johnny saying, waiting for a deposit, as soon as it's complete, lights out. And then the other person saying, okay, I'm trying to get it to you. That became obviously very suspicious. And then the question became, who is this person that's exchanging text messages with Johnny Wright? So that became the focus. Where did this text come from? Who is it sent to? Who is on the other side of this?
But the other phone number is also linked to a burner.
And so we had to track that phone, not with the number, which wasn't connected to anybody, because you could put in Daffy Duck as your subscriber information, and that's not going to tell anybody anything. So then it became getting a search warrant for that phone and looking at the location in which these calls were being made from. So as the search warrant returns were coming in for the burner phone that was sending Johnny Wright text messages, then we find out that, this is locating at Miss Upshaw's house. Most people will think that if you go buy a burner phone and you make calls on it, it's not going to ever really come back on you and be traceable to you. But we're going to get location information off of that.
This opens up a Pandora's box. So now investigators are going to open up Takesha's phone records.
Not only did her personal cell phone contact these certain parties in Tennessee, but that burner phone was also contacting certain people in Tennessee. And the timing of those, compared to when the burner phone was fired up, it's almost like it was obvious she had her personal cell phone in her hand and she calls someone and says, I'm going to call you from my other phone now, hangs up that phone call, and then immediately uses the burner phone to connect with that person and then never uses her personal cell phone again. So it was like the handoff from her personal phone to, now I'm going to do some dirt.
Investigators place Takesha's home under surveillance.
They see people coming and going with duffel bags. It's all speculation, but it looks like she's already moving and selling product illegally.
Detectives continue to keep an eye on Takesha while building a case for her arrest.
The big focus here is on the phone records. They realized early on that getting access to these is going to be key to solving the case.
There was, I think, 16 warrants for 16 cell phones, both here in Tennessee that were, we got search warrants for, that we had to make the connections to, find out where the calls were being made from. And the more we looked into it, the more central it got, that the person that was doing the communicating with everybody, and on the other side of those text messages saying they're trying to get money together, was somebody that was making an awful lot of phone calls from Takesha Upshaw's residence.
Eventually, investigators hone in on another name.
Wesley Brown popped up in the investigation based on the fact that at some point a couple of days before the homicide, the burner phone stops being oriented and located within Miss Upshaw's residence at that location and moves to another location.
It appears that she dropped the phone off in Berkeley at Wesley Brown's house.
Wesley Brown was a friend of Takesha's. They had grown up together, they had known each other, and apparently a couple days before the homicide, she drops off this burner phone over with him And then he both makes and receives a couple of phone calls from the burner phone of Johnny Wright. I think in her mind, you know, taking this phone and putting it with somebody else, maybe that was a way for her to try to distance herself from the whole thing.
Almost 6 months after Adon was killed, investigators prepared not one, but 2 additional arrest warrants.
They have motive, they have phone records. They have connected Takesha and Wesley to the man who shot Adon. They've already arrested Chariot Burke and Johnny Wright. Now they are ready to also arrest Wesley Brown and, more importantly, Takesha Upshaw.
Handshake deals, they are 90% of the industry's movements. You couple this with the amount of funding that it takes, and everything's done on a handshake deal, it's a recipe for disaster. Fraud, robberies, people losing their livelihoods all happen. It's just inviting a lot of predatory lending, things like that. A lot of strawmen. A lot of people taking a position, saying that they're ex-owner whenever they aren't, and there's some contract in the back. People tend to kind of revert back to that street thought. It's like, oh, well, you know, we'll just go rob them. Oh, you know, we'll just go beat them up. And you see this all the time in the industry. Yeah, it's been a Wild West industry.
Almost 6 months after Adon Khatami was gunned down in broad daylight, investigators arrive at the home of his former business partner, Takesha Upshaw, to place her under arrest.
They believe that Takesha resented Adon because of his insistence on her buying him out of his stake of the business. She interpreted him backing out of the partnership as betrayal, and she hired someone to kill him in retaliation.
What had happened was someone had vandalized one of her cars or done a hit and run on one of her cars. And so she called at some point in the previous 6 months to make a report on it. And so the deputies called her back and say, you know, ma'am, we're following up on that report. Can you come outside? She's walking out of her house in her slippers. She's waving down the deputy in the street, and then 2 deputies secure her, grab her.
Following the arrest, they conduct a search of Takesha's home.
They found lots of cell phones. They also uncovered a large, illegal marijuana grow within her residence. This is back when you couldn't do that in California. And they seized a lot of items from her residence. The grow area, I believe, was in a basement down below. She ended up being charged with that as well. Wesley Brown was arrested simultaneously. We didn't want them to communicate with one another, or it's not uncommon to arrest 2 suspects at the same time so they don't know that it's coming. They were both interviewed separately.
Takesha makes it very clear that she is not talking and immediately asks for an attorney.
Detectives turn to Wesley.
They told him he was arrested for murder. His reaction was somewhat shocked by that. He admitted to having a phone, making some phone calls, said he didn't really know what it was about, which we couldn't disprove. He asked for a lawyer. He didn't want to give much of a statement.
With Takesha and Wesley unwilling to speak with investigators, they take a gamble that they might talk to each other.
Shortly after he was arrested and they finished the interview with Miss Upshaw, they stuck him in adjoining cells that, unbeknownst to Miss Upshaw and Wesley Brown, was being recorded by a hidden microphone. When you have 2 suspects that you think are involved that may talk about it if given the opportunity, it's really a good idea to throw a recorder in there. And this was a deliberate thing. When they put them in the cells, they're like, hey, we're just holding you down here for a minute. Don't talk to each other. And of course you tell them that, and the first thing they're going to do is talk to each other.
Are they gone?
Yeah.
So what's going on?
I have no idea.
They got me on murder.
Why?
So you from the cell phone technology. They know what we did. They know everything.
Don't say nothing.
And his initial thing to her was, they got me on murder. And he seemed a little bit surprised by what was going on. And immediately she sort of told him, hey, don't talk, don't say anything. She wasn't surprised that she was being arrested for murder.
I mean, I ain't going to, but they already know, Keisha.
I don't think you should be talking right now.
She's telling him, you know, you shouldn't have said that. Don't worry, I'm going to get you a lawyer. You know, because very clearly he was a little confused by what was going on, and she was given the direction to keep his mouth shut. The recording happened about the first hour of them sitting there. At the end, they take them out and process them into the main jail, and the detectives, you know, go grab the recorder and start listening to it, and it became a very helpful part of the case. Just the way people are talking to one another. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So the DA's office decides to file a murder charge, and once they did, we filed the charges and then joined all 4 defendants together.
But that doesn't mean all 4 will see their day in court.
All charges against Wesley Brown are dropped.
We could not prove with the evidence we had that he knew that there was going to be a murder committed or that he was involved and had the intent to do that. So we dismissed the charges against him, the murder charges.
The murder charges against Chariot Burks are also dropped.
The decision of the prosecutor who had the case before me felt it was appropriate to resolve the driver's case and plead that person to an accessory to murder.
As for Johnny Wright and Takesha Upshaw, prosecutors take aim.
I wanted to make sure that you have to know the case good enough to teach it to 12 random people who don't know anything about it, who all have different backgrounds and different ways they feel about things, in order to eliminate anything other than a guilty verdict, and that's what I had to do.
His alleged hitman, Johnny Wright, takes a plea.
Johnny Wright pled guilty to first-degree murder with the use of a firearm, so he admitted, you know, the most serious charges we can put on anybody short of trial. He knew that there was no upside to going to trial, and so he threw himself on the mercy of the court.
Johnny is sentenced to 50 years to life.
Takesha Upshaw stands by her innocence. Her trial begins in October 2019.
Ms. Upshaw, on one hand, is in the community. She's out there shaking hands, glad-handing people, putting herself out there, getting connected to folks, and pretending she's this upstanding person and this good business partner to a Don. And with her other hand, she's dialing up a hitman from Tennessee to take him out. It's a sinister thing to do. She's an evil person and a fraud.
Prosecutors allege that Adon wanted out, but Takesha didn't want to pay him the over $1 million he was asking. She wanted to get the permit, keep Adon's investment, and open a dispensary without him.
Prosecutors rely on the cell phone evidence to prove Takesha's involvement.
As you examine these cell phone records, the interconnectedness between her phone and Johnny Wright's phone, it all started to make perfect sense.
Partly to avoid what she saw as a forced buyout, and partly to get revenge for him leaving her high and dry. Threatening her well-cultivated reputation, Takesha hired Johnny to take Adon's life.
In a tragic turn, prosecutors reveal that days after Adon was killed, Takesha received news from the planning committee.
The permit she had worked so hard for and ultimately killed for was denied.
People from the neighborhood argued that it was too close to a school, and the planning commission decided unanimously to deny the permit. The dispensary would not move forward, and Adon was killed for nothing.
The defense has their turn, and for the first time since her arrest, Takesha speaks up.
Ms. Upshaw chose to exercise her right to testify in her own defense. She testified that she loved Adon, that he was her friend, that he was her business partner, that she was broken up by the whole thing. She tried to say that it was Wesley Brown that had planned the thing and that they were boyfriend and girlfriend and they were inseparable.
They tried to argue that the burner phone belonged to Wesley and not Takesha.
Wesley Brown was with me the whole time. He obviously had the burner phone and it was him.
This was simply not true, and the charges against Wesley had already been dropped.
Following 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivers their verdict.
They found Takesha Upshaw guilty of first-degree murder, and she was later sentenced to life in prison.
She accepted the verdict for what it was. I mean, she still claims to be innocent. She's never taken accountability or shown any remorse. If you asked her today, she'd probably say she had nothing to do with it.
Adon was a good person who wanted the best for his family. He wanted the best for his kids and wanted to be successful in order to secure that.
He was a bright, vibrant soul, strong as a man and as a person and a father. He had such a positive vibe to him, like a want for more.
On the evening of August 19th, 2011, police in Atlanta, Georgia get a frantic 911 call.
I'm calling the police.
Atlanta 911 emergency operator 44.
Send the police to make them drive. And they had a drive-by and somebody got shot. Okay. And send the ambulance.
We received a call that a female was shot on Macon Drive.
And we're coming, okay? Tell me exactly what happened.
Witnesses report that a Tahoe had come up to the scene. A weapon was discharged from the rear seat, and that after the shooting occurred, the vehicle sped off.
The victim is 22-year-old Julian Jones, still alive, but bleeding badly from a leg wound.
Lord have mercy. Please tell me to hurry.
The commotion gets the attention of Julian's aunt, who lives next door.
I was in the house, cleaning up, vacuuming, and everything. And that's when I heard the gunshots. Not knowing it was in front of my door, outside the house. So I looked at the window, and my neighbor was yelling for me to come outside. Pierre got shot. And I went to see her laying down, blood coming out. She was screaming, "Auntie, I'm hurt, I'm hurt." It was just hard to see her laying on there. The ambulance, I don't even know what took them so long. They took a long time to get there. But once they got there, they put her on the stretcher and took her away.
For those left behind at the chaotic scene, the question is why anyone would shoot her in the first place.
Everybody loved her, man. I mean, to know her was to love her. She just was entrenched in that community. Just a loving young lady who cared for her family and was trying to be a good mother to her 4 children.
Julian Jones was born on September 10th, 1988 at Atlanta's Grady Hospital.
Julian Jones is her biological name, but everybody in the neighborhood call her P. Well, her aunt call her P. She had so many nicknames.
I call her Pee-Pie because when she was a little bitty baby, she always slept with one eye open and one eye closed. So I just said, okay, Pee-Pie.
Julian and her brother, Christopher, their biological mother is our oldest sister. June adopted both of them when they was young, when they was babies.
I got Julian when she was 2 days old. She came straight from the hospital. And I already had Chris, and I had Chris ever since he was 2 months old. And I raised them two together, and oh my God. Hard times, it was hard times, but we all got through it.
They lived in what was sometimes a rough neighborhood, but June did her best to raise the kids to be joyful and feel loved. Unlike most kids, Julian liked to help out around the house.
She learned how to cook. 'Cause I used to do Sunday dinner every Sunday. We all used to get together at my house and eat dinner and just have a ball, just have a good time laughing.
Julian loved to cook, but I had to go to work. So she thought that she was gonna be the lady of the house and cook for her siblings.
As she grew up, Julian's bright personality made her popular in the area.
They call her Princess of Macon Drive. because she was the only girl up there. Everybody else were boys. So she was the little princess of Macon Drive.
She was especially close with two boys, Jalen and Xavier.
All three of them grew up like sisters and brothers. They had no problem with each other.
Julian, she talks to you about any and everything. She fun. She loves to dance. She loves to sing.
But as Julian and her brother got older, they wanted a little more freedom.
Eventually, Chris came to move with me, so Julian. She eventually, little Julian, came to me too. All the kids wound up coming to me in their teenager years. They know I was a linear boy, so I worked all the time, and they could do what they wanted to do at my house, and they couldn't do that at their own house.
Julian was a bright girl with an even brighter future, but it was put on hold when she got pregnant her sophomore year of high school. Thankfully, her aunts were there to help her raise the baby.
She went to get her GED at the workforce building.
The girl was so happy about that, and then see her auntie there with her. Oh, she was so happy. She got her GED.
Around this time, Julian also fell in love with a young man named Adonis.
They was okay. They had a good relationship. They loved each other. She had kids by him.
Within a few years, Julian and Adonis added 3 more kids to their family.
She was a good mother. She worked for them, and at every event, she's always there.
She tried to teach her kids how to dance. You know that song, Beef It Up? That's one of her favorite songs. And I was like, oh my God. So we all in the room just beefing it up, dancing. And I said, Joy, you is so funny.
Julian's children were everything to her, but she still had other dreams as well.
And she used to be in there all the time, over your shoulder. What you cooking now? She wanted to go to Cornell Art School. She wanted to be a cook. Oh my God, a cook.
Now, all of it is in jeopardy, and Julian is fighting for her life.
My mom had called me and told me about Julian. She said Julian been shot. So I got in my car and I did 90 miles an hour over there to see what was going on. By the time I got there, the ambulance and the fire truck was already there. And they told me to just don't get out my car, just follow them down to the hospital.
The investigators know that drive-by shootings are often gang-related.
The Macon Drive area has historically been known as a pretty violent area. We've seen a lot of gang activity increased over the years.
There are gang members there who operate daily. They commit a lot of crimes. They are responsible for a lot of the shootings.
The murder took place off of Cleveland Avenue. It's in the metro part of Atlanta. It's kind of south a little bit, and it's a known area for a criminal street gang known as Raised on Cleveland.
They basically was a group of young men that was raised on Cleveland Avenue. They aligned themselves to the blood gang, but they were not a traditional blood gang. We call them hybrid gangs, where they will take on the symbolization of a traditional gang, but they were not tied to them.
The people you find in these gangs don't have anything to do and nowhere to go. You do something to these guys, they will shoot you and not even think about it.
And it's all about the guns, all about the violence. It's nothing about fist fight like we used to in the olden days, or beating somebody up and they going home crying. It ain't nothing like that now. You get an attitude, bam, you shot and dead.
So what do you think of our hut?
While doctors attempt to save Julian Jones after a drive-by shooting, investigators try to determine what happened. Witnesses say Julian was outside talking to her friend Jalen when the shooting happened.
They were chopping it up in the neighborhood, and a black Tahoe came driving by very slowly. The back seat passenger behind the driver's seat rolled down his window and literally pulled out a gun and started firing. Of course, Jalen ran, and unfortunately, P-Pop got shot.
After the shooting occurred, the vehicle sped off.
None of the witnesses claim to have seen the shooter or the driver well enough to ID them, so investigators searched the scene for forensic evidence.
We wound up blocking off the area around Macon Drive where the incident occurred. Our investigators were really methodical in their approach because Ms. Jones was moved from the actual scene, so we actually had to retrace her steps. We found some blood evidence from Miss Julian Jones from when she was actually struck. A round ricocheted off of something and wound up hitting her in the femoral artery. What happens is that you'll have an impact strike, for instance, if it hits the ground, the bullet will change directions. And sometimes it'll change directions with the same force that it does from the point when it hits the ground. We had some shell casings from what we thought was an AR-15 at the time, and then ballistic evidence ultimately confirmed that. The projectiles that we were able to recover from the scene was a .223, which is usually an indication that an AR-15 was used.
As a reporter here in Atlanta, I've covered many cases where AR-15s are used to kill people. This is like stock for gang members. When they shoot people, they want to kill them. They want to shoot multiple times, they want to get off quick fire, and they want to get away.
As authorities keep working the scene and start looking for Jalen, Julian's loved ones pray for good news at the hospital.
We were sitting down there waiting and waiting. And I was hoping that, you know, she was gonna make it home, but she was just gonna have something wrong with her legs, or she was gonna be paralyzed. But when they told me that she was dead, I just couldn't control myself. I just lost it. They wouldn't let me see her because they said that it was an ongoing investigation. And I wanted to see my baby because I didn't want her to go out like that. When I got from the hospital, I went to get her children. And I tried to explain to her children what's going on. They was only 2, 3, and 10 months old, and the oldest one was 8. The only thing that the baby understands is I want my mom. And the mama wasn't there.
And when I got the words that she didn't make it, I was just like too outdone. I was like really, really hurt, really devastated because that was my baby. What I'm gonna do without her? You know, that was my friend.
The case has become a homicide, and Julian's loved ones think they know who did it.
As we began to question some of our family members, we got information about the potential for domestic violence occurring with respect to her relationship.
The family shares details about Julian's boyfriend, Adonis.
He started mistreating her. I don't know what went on in their relationship or what caused the mistreating and everything, but I know she wasn't happy anymore. And she moved back home with me. And then this happened.
Having been the homicide commander in many deaths related to domestic violence, it's been my experience that at least 15% of all cases come from intimate partners.
The princess of Macon Drive is murdered. She's no longer with us. The community is in an uproar. They want to know who did this. police, they have to look at Adonis, the father of Julian's children. Did he kill her?
Right after the shooting death of Julian Jones, I went out to the Macon Drive community and I talked with a lot of the residents out there. And as you could imagine, many of them during that time was fed up with the level of violence that was occurring in their community.
That community is accustomed to gunfire, shootings, and murder, but not this mother. Not this mother of four. She wasn't doing anything to anybody. But she ends up dead. And that community wanted justice. They wanted justice. They were angry about this.
So it became important for us to send a message that we were going to do everything first that we could to solve that case and also give the residents out there some relief from the violence that was occurring along that Macon Drive corridor.
Welcome to Allstate, where anyone who bundles their home and auto insurance saves. Isn't that right, Phil?
Sorry, I'm a little busy.
What in the world?
Within days of the drive-by murder of Julian Jones, investigators tracked down her ex-boyfriend, Adonis.
Police took a hard look at Adonis. Was he the person who killed Julian?
We were able to eventually identify Adonis, the father of her children, and he provided a statement.
Adonis admits that their relationship was volatile, but insists he'd never do anything to hurt her.
Him and Peapod probably had kind of a roller coaster relationship. There were some ups and downs, but they were trying to work it out and do their thing and raise their kids as best they could. He may have been verbally abusive. I don't recall any physical abuse.
It was just like they was getting mad at each other. They was yelling, they was screaming, they was hollering. I tried to intervene, but sometimes you just can't. Eventually, Julian got tired of it, so Julian wanted to move on, and she wanted to see other people, and she wanted to upgrade her life and get herself together and all of that, and take care of her children.
Adonis claims he and Julian remained friends after their breakup. He says he gave her a ride to her aunt's house a little while before she was shot, which means he admits to being in the area at the time.
But they began investigating, looked deeper into this case, and they checked out his alibis, and they cleared him in Julian's murder.
What we found during the course of our investigation at the end of the day is that he was inside the house dealing with the kids.
With their best suspect eliminated, investigators head back out into the neighborhood looking for new leads. But they quickly run into a problem.
In some neighborhoods, there's this prevailing sense of not snitching to the police. As you can imagine, some witnesses simply weren't cooperating. One of the things that we work really hard to do is to build this sense of trust in many of our communities. Well, as you can imagine, in an area where there's a lot of crime and there's heavy police enforcement, you have a lot more work to do.
Thankfully, Julian's aunt, April Howe, finds a way to serve as a liaison for police.
I wasn't questioning people. I wasn't going door to door. I'm Auntie April in the neighborhood, so of course they came to me.
Word on the street is that the bullet that killed her niece was intended for someone else, Julian's childhood friend, Jalen.
Once I learned Jalen was involved, it was all told by the people in the neighborhood, and we talked about it, and I shared with the detective.
April reports that people are saying Jalen and his brother Xavier, both members of the Raised on Cleveland, or ROC crew, robbed a wealthy basketball player 4 months ago.
He was robbed of about $55,000 worth of jewelry outside of the barbershop. It was a crime of opportunity at that point. Right after, it appears that he had gone into the barbershop to question some of the individuals in there about the identity of the persons that robbed him when he lost his jewelry. The people in the barbershop was able to give him like a loose description of the individuals and possibly some nicknames.
And the basketball player's hunt for revenge gained notoriety around the neighborhood.
Everybody knew that, hey, this is the basketball player in his four-door Porsche, and ultimately he's got a gun. And he's looking for the folk that were a part of the rock crew who robbed him.
April tells detectives she heard that the man tracked down Jalen that fateful night to get revenge.
He was firing at Jalen, and that's how Julian got shot. I was upset. I wanted to blame Jalen, because if it weren't for Jalen, my baby wouldn't have been shot, regardless of whether she was outside or not. She wouldn't have never been shot.
After a drive-by shooting that claimed the life of Julian Jones, Atlanta police are searching for her friend Jalen, a gang member who might have been the intended target. Ordinarily, no one would talk to the cops, but Julian is no ordinary victim.
Most gang members, there's a code where they're not going to come and communicate to law enforcement officials because they just assume deal with it in their way as well. But at some point, the community put so much pressure on Jalen to come in because Peapod meant something to that community. So he eventually comes in and he says what happened.
Come to find out, it all started with Big Boo.
Big Boo was one of the leaders of the rock crew. He was an older guy. Well, he was older than many of the members of the rock crew because I think Big Boo was in his late 20s, early 30s. But he had been around the block a while. He was an older guy. And so he had a lot of influence over those young minds and over the young men that were a part of Raised on Cleveland. And so on the night in question, Big Boo was the one who set up the robbery at the barbershop.
According to Jalen, their mark was a former pro basketball player named Javaris Crittenden, a local legend in the Atlanta area. And Jalen says Javaris is the one who shot from the Chevy Tahoe, killing Julian Jones.
Javaris was a star player at Southwest Atlanta Christian Academy. Won a couple of championships, state championships. Star player. And he was no slouch in the classroom. He had a 3.5 grade point average in high school. His future was bright. And then he goes to Georgia Tech. Only played a year, but in the year he was there, he became a leader. This was a freshman who was a leader on this senior laden team. He declared for the NBA after a year. The local paper named him the Georgia Basketball Player of the Year. He was just an outstanding athlete. And at the time, as far as we knew, he was an outstanding person. Javaris gets drafted by the Lakers in the first round. This is a huge deal. So he gets to lovely LA, and according to prosecutors, what does he do? He joins a gang. Now, Javaris said he wasn't a member of the gang, that he just hung around them for protection. But what about that tattoo on your stomach? It's a Crips tattoo there.
Soon after, Crittenden's career began to falter. He was traded several times to different teams and eventually got into an explosive argument with another player.
He joined the Washington Wizards. Of course, the marquee player there was Gilbert Arenas. And at some point, they got into an altercation there inside the locker room. And there were allegations that guns were involved and that they drew guns on one another.
He was getting all the attention, all the love, but for some reason, we have yet to figure out, he sought a different kind of attention. You know, he danced around the edges of the law. He hung with people who had questionable character. He just wasn't willing to walk the straight and narrow and improve his chances of success. Instead, he shot his chances for success in the foot.
In 2009, Crittenton was released by the Wizards. Over the next 2 years, he briefly played in China and then for a minor league team before eventually returning home to Atlanta. Police learned that in addition to the barbershop robbery, Crittenton was robbed at gunpoint at least 3 other times.
Atlanta 911 emergency operator 2784, may I help you?
I'd like to report a robbery.
There was one robbery in the West End where he was taking a friend home from a club. When he stopped, then guys jump out and rob him.
Javaris, he wore expensive jewelry, and in some of these neighborhoods, that's not a smart thing to do. You become a target as this big athlete, a strong guy. That has to wound the pride, if you will.
For whatever reason, he kept going back to that community, and every time he went back there, he was victimized by a robbery. And I think that began to anger him. And so it was his position to go back and get revenge on the individuals that made him a victim in the first place. And it was at that point that Mr. Crittenton began to drive throughout the Macon Drive community with a shotgun in his lap.
In these communities, you're expected to be tough. You are expected to exact revenge when someone wounds you, when someone hurts you, when someone takes your manhood, if you will. And that's what these robberies are in some of these guys' eyes. You're attacking my manhood, and you don't do that. So their only recourse is to fight back or shoot back.
Police think this is what Crittenton decided to do after Jalen allegedly robbed him at the barbershop.
Javaris was taking matters into his own hand and wanted street justice. He was going after any and everybody that was associated with Jalen and wanted to make a point to the rock crew that if you mess with Javaris Crittenton, he's going to hunt you down in a way that it's not going to be friendly. And you may be looking on the other side of a 223.
It's important for us to be able to build a sense of trust and legitimacy in many communities. And so as residents begin to trust law enforcement more, we're hopeful that they will bring these issues to us before taking matters into their own hands, which is extremely important. That's what the courts are for. We need to build more trust in many communities like the Macon Drive area where there's this prevailing sense of not snitching to the police. You have many other people in that community that are victimized that don't get that sort of closure and that sense of justice that occurs every day. And so it's important for us to make sure that when people tell us things that are going on in their community, that we're responding to them.
All right. Atlanta police believe Javaris Crittenton is the man who shot Julian Jones during a botched revenge hit on a gang member. But when they go to arrest him at his home in Fayetteville, Georgia, they discover he's on the run.
We have to take our steps to try to find him. And so that wasn't the easiest of things, but, developing him as a potential suspect in the case, it became really important that we needed to sit down and talk with him.
There was a massive manhunt for Javaris. The police department even had the FBI assisting them in trying to get him into custody.
As the search continues, police seek evidence to connect Crittenton to the murder.
Witnesses reported seeing a rental symbol on the back of the Tahoe. So we called around and we asked if Javaris Crittenton had rented a Chevy Tahoe at that particular location. And, one after another, they tell you, no, we don't have that name in our database. And then after you make so many phone calls, you start thinking to yourself that you're just chasing a ghost. You make that last phone call and the person said, yeah, well, we did have a Javaris Crittenton that rented a Chevy Tahoe that's a hybrid model from our business. We picked up the vehicle, got a search warrant for it, and I directed them to swab it for gunpowder residue. And right where witnesses put Mr. Crittenden, we got a positive hit for gunpowder residue in the top part of that vehicle, directly where Mr. Crittenden was sitting.
You had Javaris Crittenden's fingerprint on the inside door behind the driver's seat. And so all of what Jalen told us was consistent with the physical evidence.
It's enough for investigators to get a search warrant for Crittenden's home.
While we executed the search warrant at his property, we found the Porsche, but the AR-15 itself, I don't believe we ever found that weapon. We found a shotgun that the witnesses had reported. The investigation really snowballed from that point.
The rental agency also gives detectives a copy of the rental agreement. Crittenden's name is on it, along with another man, Douglas Gamble.
I found out he's actually the cousin, but they're more like brothers. And he supported whatever Javaris did. They spent most of their time with each other, traveled with each other.
Investigators get warrants for Crittenden and Gamble's phone GPS records, which reveals something that suggests Crittenden knew that police used these records to tie people to crimes.
At the time that Peapod was shot, Javaris's phone was completely off. Because his phone is off, it doesn't tie him to the scene. It's not communicating with the tower. We didn't believe that ultimately Javaris just happened upon this information.
A further look into Javaris's past reveals how he might have learned that criminal strategy.
And so our investigation led us to Los Angeles. And lo and behold, the same type of murder Javaris's name comes up in. There was this beef going on, an inner Crip beef, and it ultimately ended up killing a young lady. She was actually pregnant with a child, and she died, as well as her baby, there on the scene. Javaris's name came up in that because his phone was in the area. He wasn't a gunman, but he was in the area. He knew how this gang actually rented a car, and so he was instructed about how to go about killing Jalen from this murder.
Javaris seems to have applied what he learned about renting cars and turning phones off from the shooting in LA.
But his cousin didn't know well enough to turn his phone off, and apparently Javaris didn't share the news.
Douglas Gamble's phone goes to the area right around the exact same time the 911 call came out, within minutes of the 911 call. His phone is using a cell tower. It's probably with about a mile and a half from the crime scene. Douglas Gamble's phone leaves the crime scene around that time, and then it goes traveling the west side of Atlanta. Javaris Crittenden's phone pops back on the grid, and now it starts to use cell towers that are not far from the same cell towers that Douglas Gamble was using.
Investigators now have enough evidence to get an arrest warrant for Gamble, too. Gamble is arrested and charged with murder, and Crittenden's LA connection finally gives police a lead on where to find him as well.
As we began to dig into his gang affiliation, we realized that he had posted bail for some gang members out in Los Angeles.
We found and were able to track down that he had purchased a one-way ticket to LA from Atlanta, and that he was going to fly out on like the red eye.
On August 29th, 2011, the LAPD and the FBI arrest Javaris Crittenden at John Wayne Airport and extradite him back to Fulton County.
Ultimately, he was charged with murder. He was charged with a gang statute here in the state of Georgia, which is one of the strongest statutes in the country, along with possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony.
So we started to prepare the case for indictment. And of course, the case was indicted. And once the case was indicted, we were preparing for trial.
To everyone's surprise, however, a judge releases Javaris Crittenden on a $230,000 bond, despite strong opposition from Julian Jones's family.
No, you don't need to get out. You don't need to get out on bond because you kill someone. You can be a flight risk. You already ran to LA after the murder. So how could you run to LA and then think if we set you on a bond, you won't fly again?
Nearly 3 years pass while prosecutors prepare their case against Javaris Crittenden and Douglas Gamble. The whole time, Crittenden has remained free on bail, but he can't seem to stay out of trouble.
While Javaris is out on bond, police say he's involved in the manufacturing and selling of multi-kilos of cocaine and marijuana. They say him and at least 13 other people were involved in this massive operation to buy and distribute these drugs around the community. Keep in mind, this guy is out on bond on a murder charge, and he's involved in something just as big.
Crittenden is rearrested, and police seize over 900 pounds of cocaine. This time, the judge refuses bail.
People were wondering, what is Javaris thinking? Is he really who we thought he was? It was just further evidence of his downward spiral.
In April 2015, Crittenden and Gamble are set to stand trial for the murder of Julian Jones.
I wanted to see some sign of remorse, but I saw this steel-ish character, this strong and defiant and tough guy sitting there.
He was being like he higher than everybody else. No remorse, no sympathy.
Everybody knew that Jalen had robbed him and the Rock crew had robbed him. But at the end of the day, he found out ultimately where Jalen stayed, and unfortunately, Julian Jones was killed because of it.
Usually when you cover one of these trials, there's a buzz because there's a jury and the trial is about to start. But this day, that buzz was extra loud because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, wow, what's happening? All of this anxiety, this anticipation, ready for this jury to start, and then all of a sudden, it stops.
Just before opening statements begin, Crittenden changes his plea to guilty.
The district attorney's office had agreed to reduce the charge of murder to voluntary manslaughter. And they had agreed to sentence him to a 20-year deal.
A plea? A plea for what? No, he don't need to do no plea. I guess I was the spokesperson for my family. No, he didn't need to do no plea. We couldn't do no plea. But when we went back in there, the judge came down with a verdict.
They were devastated. I could see the look on their faces, and I still see that look. And from time to time, even when speaking to June Woods and April.
Javaris Crittenden pleads guilty to voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault.
I think, his lawyer whispered in his ear, it's as good as it's gonna get. And the risk is too great for him because I think his lawyer knew that in the end, he would have been convicted of murder and he would have been serving a life sentence.
They sentenced Javaris 23 years in prison and 17 on probation or parole when he come home. Man, I think he should have got life. I mean, I don't want to be mean and harsh or anything like that, but you killed someone, you knew what you was doing. You took the wrong life, even though she wasn't your intended target, you still killed her.
Douglas Gamble pleads guilty to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and earns 3 years in prison.
When I think about this case, I really dwell on Julian Jones, and I try to think about April and June Woods and Julian Jones' kids.
She put them to sleep at night, woke them up to get ready for school. Somebody else has to take care of that task. And you gotta know that they have a hole in their heart, will have one for the rest of their lives because of the actions of Javaris Crittenden and him wanting revenge.
It's about decisions. And so, had he made some different decisions and allowed himself to just breathe and take a step back and let law enforcement officials deal with it, then I think you have a different outcome in this case.
If he would have just let the detectives handle their job with the jury and stuff, it wouldn't have never happened.
He really took my joy. He took my pride. He took everybody's friend. Everybody loved Julian. Julian was like the life of the party. She always had somebody dancing, singing, playing. If you take a life, you get a life. I didn't want them to put him on death row or nothing like that. I didn't want him to die. I just wanted him to spend life in jail. You took my child's life and she got to spend it at Southview Cemetery.
We always gonna remember Julia. Julia is in our heart forever.